In the quiet winter town of Ash Harbor, where snow drifts like forgotten memories and the wind whispers secrets through the pines, a father returned home after weeks of danger, only to find the one thing he loved most, shivering alone in the frozen dark. What happened in that house, hidden behind perfect smiles and winter curtains, would unravel a truth more heartbreaking and more powerful than anyone imagined. And at the center of it all, a little girl, a loyal German shepherd, and a father who learned that love can rise even from the coldest storm. Before we begin, tell me, where are you watching from tonight? Drop your city in the comments, and may you have a peaceful, beautiful day ahead. Winter settled over Ash Harbor, a quiet coastal town tucked along the northern edge of Oregon, where pine trees swayed like dark sentinels against the wind, and the ocean groaned behind them in slow, heavy breaths. Snow had fallen for 2 days without pause, turning hills into white dunes and streets into ribbons of frost. The temperature hovered dangerously low. Even the lampposts seemed to shiver. Into that frozen landscape rolled a charcoal-gray SUV with police markings faded from long service. Behind the wheel sat Officer Rowan Pierce, a 38-year-old patrol officer whose broad shoulders and steady, weather-hardened features made him look carved from the same granite cliffs Ash Harbor was built upon. Rowan had the kind of face that rarely betrayed emotion, square jaw, light stubble, deep-set gray-blue eyes that had seen too much of humanity's worst, but still tried to believe in its good. Years of service had left faint stress lines on his forehead and a tired heaviness around his mouth. But beneath that stoic exterior was a father who had missed his daughter more than he admitted. His personality was calm, methodical, and fiercely loyal, shaped by a childhood spent with a stern firefighter father who taught him discipline, but not softness. Ever since Rowan lost his first wife to a sudden illness 5 years earlier, he carried guilt like an unspoken companion. He often buried himself in work to avoid the loneliness of an empty home. Beside him in the passenger seat sat Valor, Rowan's 4-year-old German Shepherd K9 partner. Valor had a powerful build, muscular shoulders, sharply attentive amber eyes, and thick black and tan fur that rippled when he moved. He was disciplined on duty but surprisingly gentle with children, especially Rowan's daughter Mia. Trained in tracking, detection, and protection, Valor carried himself with a proud, almost noble air. But today he shifted restlessly, sensing the tension that simmered beneath Rowan's quiet anticipation. Rowan exhaled, fogging the glass slightly. "Easy, boy, we're almost home." The SUV rounded a curve, and through the blur of falling snow emerged the silhouette of a small cedar wood cottage perched at the top of a hill. Warm yellow light usually spilled from its windows, warmth Rowan had pictured over and over during the past 3 weeks of high-risk mountain rescue operations. He imagined opening the door, lifting Mia into his arms, hearing her excited laughter echo across the living room. But today, something was wrong. Even before he fully turned into the driveway, Valor stiffened, ears twitching. Rowan's stomach tightened. There were no lights on. The yard looked disturbingly empty. No footprints, no snowman, no sign of a child waiting for her father on Christmas week. Then his headlights swept across the yard, carving a path through drifting flakes. And he saw her, a tiny figure crouched in the snow near the porch steps, knees pressed to her chest, as still as a forgotten doll. Rowan slammed the brakes and was out of the SUV before the engine fully stopped. Valor leapt out behind him, barking sharply as if announcing danger. Rowan sprinted across the frozen yard. Snow crunched loudly under his boots. "Mia!" he called, voice cracking with fear he hadn't felt since the day he almost lost her at birth. Mia Pierce, 7 years old, was small for her age, with wispy tawny brown hair curling wildly around her pale face. Today that hair clung wetly to her forehead, dotted with flakes that melted painfully slow against her cold skin. She was a gentle child, soft-spoken, imaginative, shy with strangers, but affectionate with those she trusted. The loss of her mother had made her quieter, more cautious, and Rowan worked hard to keep her world gentle. Seeing her like this stabbed him like a blade. She didn't move even as he knelt, wrapping his coat around her trembling form. Her fingers were purple, her lips shook, her breath came out in tiny puffs. When her eyes lifted toward him, red, frightened, confused. Rowan felt his chest collapse inward. Mia, sweetheart, what happened? Why are you outside? It's freezing. She clutched her old stuffed bear so tightly the seams strained. Her voice was barely a rasp. Daddy, don't be loud. She'll hear. Before Rowan could ask more, the porch light flicked on. Evelyn Hale, Rowan's second wife, stepped into view. Evelyn was 34, strikingly beautiful in a composed, almost polished way. Long red hair falling in a perfect wave, fair skin, tall and slender, with a graceful posture that made her look like she belonged in glossy magazines rather than small-town life. She always dressed elegantly, even at home, today wearing a cream-knit sweater, fitted slacks, and pearl earrings. Her beauty, however, was frosted with a certain emotional distance. Evelyn had grown up in a wealthy but emotionally barren household. Her mother obsessed over perfection, her father absent more often than not. She learned to value image over empathy, control over compassion. Those habits clung to her like perfume, pleasant from afar, suffocating up close. She pressed a hand delicately to her chest, her voice dripping concern that felt too smooth to be real. Rowan, dear, you startled me. But Valor growled, low and unwavering. Rowan rose with Mia in his arms, fury simmering beneath his controlled tone. Why was she outside? Evelyn blinked innocently. She tried to open your holiday cabinet. She must learn boundaries, Rowan. I was simply teaching her discipline. In the snow? Rowan hissed. Evelyn's smile wavered, but only for a breath. Don't overreact. Children exaggerate when they're emotional. She needed a moment to reflect, that's all. Rowan carried Mia inside, ignoring Evelyn's attempt to place a soothing hand on his arm. The moment the door closed, he felt it. Something off, something hollow. The cottage had been stripped of Mia's presence. No crayons, no scattered toys, no drawings on the fridge. Even the air smelled too clean, like lemon disinfectant. Mia shivered violently. Rowan warmed her hands with his own, while Valor lay protectively at her feet, nudging her gently. You're safe now, Rowan murmured, but Mia only shook her head. When Rowan went to check her room, his heart dropped. The space looked like a hotel sample room, bed perfectly made, walls bare, dresser empty. No toys, no blankets she loved, no signs a child lived there. His pulse pounded. Evelyn, he called, but she was already at the doorway, wearing that porcelain smile. Rowan, darling, please. She's simply messy. I reorganized to help her learn order. Valor's growl deepened. Rowan ignored Evelyn and sat Mia on the couch, wrapping her in blankets. Tell Daddy what happened. Mia closed her eyes. I don't know if you'll believe me. Rowan froze. Those words sliced deeper than any truth could. He gathered her into his arms, holding her tight. I believe you, sweetheart. I believe you no matter what. Mia trembled, hiding her face against his shirt. Valor placed his head gently in Mia's lap, as if promising protection. Snow pressed against the windows, wind howling like distant spirits. Outside, Ash Harbor lay silent and frozen, unaware that inside the Pierce home, a shadow had rooted itself deep and dangerous. Rowan kissed the top of Mia's head, whispering, No one will hurt you again. Yet, even as he said it, something cold crept down his spine, an intuition that what happened tonight was only the beginning, and the house he once thought safe was holding secrets it refused to release. The next morning in Ash Harbor broke with a muted gray sky, as if the sun itself hesitated to shine over the Pierce cottage. Snow dusted the windowsills and clung to the tall pines outside like a veil of cold secrets. Inside, the air felt tense, heavy, and too still, as though the house was holding its breath again. Rowan moved through the hall quietly, careful not to wake Mia, who slept curled against Valor on the couch. The German Shepherd had refused to leave her side all night, resting his massive head over her lap and staying alert at every creak of the floorboards. Rowan ran a hand over Valor's fur, whispering, Good boy, before turning toward the kitchen. The house smelled faintly of lemon solvent, sharp, artificial, and far too strong for a home with a child. Something about that scent nagged at him. He followed it deeper into the kitchen, where the cleaning cabinet beneath the sink hung slightly ajar. The sight of it twisted a knot in his stomach, but he said nothing yet. He needed proof, not instinct. He poured coffee, letting the warmth steady him. Evelyn appeared moments later, gliding into the kitchen with her usual slow, deliberate grace. Her hair was perfectly brushed, falling like a shining curtain over her shoulders, as though she had not spent the night in the same house drenched in tension. She wore a pale blue turtleneck and dark slacks, effortlessly elegant, but her eyes, icy green and unreadable, were the same eyes Rowan had seen when she'd stood on the porch the night before, feigning concern. This morning, however, they held something different: calculation. Evelyn Hale, 34, came from a long line of strict, image-conscious women. Her mother had drilled perfection into her from childhood. No mistakes, no noise, no weakness. Evelyn grew up believing vulnerability was a flaw. She learned to mask every insecurity with beauty, posture, and control. "You're up early," she said softly, voice coated with honey but cold underneath. Rowan didn't look at her. "I had things to check." She paused, then approached the refrigerator, her movements fluid and rehearsed. "I understand you were overwhelmed yesterday, seeing Mia outside, but you know children can be dramatic. She wasn't out long." Rowan finally turned toward her, and for the first time she seemed to tense slightly under his gaze. Evelyn, her hands were purple. Evelyn's lips tightened, just barely. "And yet, she is perfectly fine now. Maybe we should move forward instead of dwelling on one unfortunate misunderstanding." Rowan didn't answer. Instead, he stepped around her and headed toward the hallway, toward a room he had locked long ago, his small home office. The door was shut, but a faint scratch mark marred the lower edge, something Mia's small shoes could have made. He looked closer. The marks were fresh. That meant someone had been forced to kneel there recently. Rowan unlocked the door slowly. The office smelled faintly. Musty. A stack of outdated paperwork sat untouched on his desk. He scanned the room, heart pounding, until his eyes caught something, an object half hidden behind the file cabinet. He crouched and pulled out a small wooden puzzle box. Mia's puzzle box, the one she used to treasure. He opened it gently. Inside, folded like a desperate secret, was a piece of paper. "Daddy, I'm sorry for the floor." Rowan pressed the note to his forehead, closing his eyes. Behind him, Valor stepped in quietly, sniffing the carpet, nostrils twitching as if detecting the echo of something unpleasant. "Find," Rowan whispered. Valor's ears perked, and he lowered his head, sweeping his nose across the floor. He followed a faint trail to the corner, toward a bucket of water still cloudy with soap residue. Cold, untouched since last night. Rowan's jaw tightened. That explained the lemon smell. Before he could investigate further, a quiet knock echoed at the front door. Rowan stiffened. Evelyn appeared in the hallway, brows raised with manufactured surprise. "Oh, someone's here? Did you invite anyone?" Rowan didn't answer. He moved quickly to the door. When he opened it, a woman stood there, small and anxious, wrapped in a thick gray winter coat. Marilyn Cooper, mid-50s, short and plump, with kind eyes and cheeks reddened by cold. Her brown hair was streaked with silver, loosely pinned back. She had once been Mia's favorite person in the house, gentle, patient, humming lullabies while she cooked. But she had quit abruptly 2 months ago, citing exhaustion. Rowan now understood that was a lie of self-protection. "Mr. Pierce," Marilyn whispered, wringing her gloved hands. I heard from a neighbor that you were back early. I thought, maybe I should come." Evelyn's expression froze. "Marilyn, how unexpected." Marilyn avoided her gaze and focused on Rowan. "Sir, could I speak with you?" Rowan nodded and led her inside. Evelyn tried to interject, but Rowan shut her out with a single look that said he no longer cared for her charade. Marilyn glanced toward the couch where Mia still slept. Valor lifted his head, eyes studying her with quiet judgment before relaxing, recognizing her scent as one that once brought warmth to the child. "She looks so tired," Marilyn whispered. "I knew she wouldn't be well." Rowan stepped closer. "Marilyn, tell me what happened after I left." The woman inhaled shakily, her breath uneven. "It started small. Miss Evelyn wanted Mia to be more orderly. She said she needed discipline, but then she made her clean floors on her knees for hours. She took away her toys. She'd put her outside for tiny things, like spilling water. Rowan felt heat ignite behind his ribs. Marilyn continued, voice trembling. One night, she made Mia sleep in the attic, said the girl needed to learn consequences. Rowan's blood ran cold. Why didn't you report it? Marilyn's eyes filled with tears. Because she threatened to sue me for theft and slander. I'm not wealthy, sir. I was scared. Rowan placed a steady hand on her arm. Thank you for coming. You're safe now? Evelyn stood near the stairs, arms crossed tightly, trying to maintain composure. This is ridiculous. Rowan, she's lying. She was always unstable. Rowan cut her off sharply. Enough. His voice made the room fall silent. Mia stirred softly on the couch, and Valor immediately went to her, pressing his warm head under her hand. Rowan approached his daughter and knelt. Sweetheart, he murmured gently, can you tell Daddy what happened last night? Mia blinked awake, eyes flickering between Rowan, Valor, and the doorway where Evelyn stood rigid and pale. She curled into Rowan's chest, whispering, I want to go home. Rowan's heart clenched. You are home, he whispered. But Mia shook her head. No, Daddy, this isn't home anymore. Rowan held her closer. Behind him, Marilyn wiped her tears. In that moment, something inside Rowan broke, and something else hardened. He stood, lifting Mia into his arms. Marilyn, he said quietly, please stay with her for a moment. Evelyn stepped forward quickly. Rowan, where are you going? Rowan looked at her with a calmness that frightened her more than anger ever could. To find out how deep this goes. Valor padded beside him, ready, alert, as Rowan walked toward the back hall where another locked room waited. A room Evelyn had told him never to enter because it was too messy. But Rowan now knew the truth. Nothing in this house was too messy for Evelyn, nothing except the truth itself. Morning deepened into a pale, uneasy afternoon in Ash Harbor. The snow had stopped falling, leaving the world coated in a glassy stillness that made every sound sharp. The groan of branches under ice, the distant caw of a raven, the low hum of the ocean in the distance. Inside the Pierce cottage, the atmosphere felt even tenser than the weather outside. Rowan stood before the locked storage room at the end of the back hallway, his hand resting on the cold brass knob. Valor pressed against his leg, posture stiff, tail low but alert. The dog sensed something behind that door, something human, something wrong. Rowan inhaled once, steadying himself, then unlocked it. Dust swirled as he pushed the door open. The room was smaller than he remembered, an unfinished space with insulation showing between the beams, a single dangling bulb, and boxes stacked haphazardly along the walls. He stepped inside, sweeping the light switch. The bulb flickered, casting harsh illumination over the objects inside. Immediately he noticed the rug, a square, thin and cheap, pulled slightly out of place. Rowan crouched down, lifting it carefully. Beneath it was a faint indentation in the floor, shaped like the outline of a small body resting there. Cold shot through his spine. Valor sniffed the spot, then turned toward the corner, barking once. A sharp, urgent sound. Rowan followed his gaze. There, near the old metal filing cabinet, sat a small, dented tin cup, child-sized. He lifted it. Inside were dried specks of hot chocolate, the same drink Mia loved but had not had in weeks. She slept here, Rowan whispered. Not once, not twice, but many nights. His breath hitched. A soft creak echoed behind him. Rowan spun around. Evelyn stood in the doorway, arms folded, face pale beneath her perfect makeup. Her voice was tight but polished. Rowan, this is unnecessary. You're letting your emotions get the best of you. Rowan stepped toward her. Why did Mia sleep in this room? She blinked but didn't move. Answer me. Before she could, another voice startled them both. Marilyn's, from the hall. Sir, there's someone outside. Rowan rushed past Evelyn and moved to the living room window. A black pickup truck idled on the street, engine rumbling like a low growl. The windows were tinted, but Rowan recognized the silhouette behind the wheel instantly. Captain Briggs. Briggs was in his mid-40s, tall and broad, with a rugged, once handsome face now set in permanent scowl lines. His dark hair was clipped short, flecked with gray at the temples. He'd always walked with an assured stride, a man who spent years believing he commanded every room he entered. Rowan had once admired him, had even seen him as a mentor. But Briggs had changed over the past year. Whispers about mismanaged evidence, unexplained purchases, and rumors of ties to private security contractors had followed him. His personality had hardened into something controlling, manipulative, and unpredictable. The truck door slammed. Briggs stepped out, crunching through the ice. He didn't knock. He barged through the front door like he owned the place. "Pierce," he said, voice deep and gravelly, "we need to talk." Valor positioned himself between Mia and Briggs instantly, teeth slightly bared, ears forward. Briggs glanced at the dog with irritation. "Call him off." "No," Rowan answered. "What are you doing here?" Briggs scanned the room, eyes landing on Evelyn, whose posture straightened like a puppet pulled by strings. He then looked at Marilyn, who shrank slightly behind Rowan. Briggs smirked. "Didn't expect an audience?" Rowan crossed his arms. "Say what you came to say." Briggs stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You've been asking questions, looking through things you shouldn't. You're off duty, Pierce. Don't make trouble for yourself." Marilyn gasped softly. Evelyn's face tightened. Rowan replied calmly, "Why were you at my house last week, Briggs?" Briggs's jaw ticked. "Work matter?" Rowan shook his head. "You entered through the back door, at 1 a.m. What work matter happens at 1 a.m. in my kitchen?" Briggs stepped even closer, expression shifting into a quiet threat. "You forget who got you your last promotion, who covered for you when you froze up on that highway shooting 2 years ago." He smirked. "You owe me." Rowan felt something inside him snap, not anger, but clarity. "I don't owe you anything." Briggs glanced toward the hallway where Mia hid behind Valor. His voice dropped into a cold, controlled tone. "Keep digging, Rowan, and you won't like what turns up." Rowan took a step toward him. "Is that a threat?" Briggs smiled thinly. "A caution." Before Rowan could respond, headlights flashed across the window. The truck's horn blared once, a signal. Briggs turned, heading toward the door. "You'll hear from me," he said without looking back. "Soon." He left. Rowan locked the door immediately. Marilyn trembled. "Sir, I've seen him here before. At night. Whispering with Miss Evelyn in the kitchen." Evelyn snapped, "Marilyn, stop lying." Rowan exhaled slowly. "I'm done accepting excuses. Marilyn, take Mia to the bedroom, please." Marilyn nodded and gently guided Mia away. Valor followed, glancing back only once to ensure Rowan was safe. Once they were alone, Rowan faced Evelyn. She stood rigid, hands clenched, the mask of calm peeling. "You've been lying to me," Rowan said softly. "For months." Evelyn's eyes glistened, not with sadness, but frustration at losing control. "Rowan, you're letting paranoia twist everything. Briggs doesn't belong in my house." Rowan walked toward her, voice low. "He doesn't talk to my daughter. He doesn't threaten my family, and you sure as hell don't punish my child." Evelyn swallowed, jaw tensing. "You left me alone with her, for weeks. You expect gratitude? I tried to keep this house running. I tried to teach her discipline. She's spoiled, Rowan. Rowan slammed his palm against the wall beside her head. Not in violence, but in finality. Evelyn flinched. "Stop," he said. "Just stop." For the first time, Evelyn's mask cracked. A flicker of anger, pure, unfiltered, crossed her face. "You're choosing her over me." Rowan backed away. "She's my daughter, and I'm your wife." Rowan's voice turned to ice. "Not anymore." Evelyn stumbled slightly, then steadied herself. Her gaze hardened. "You're making a mistake, Rowan. You'll regret this." She stormed upstairs. Rowan exhaled shakily, running a hand through his hair. His heartbeat thudded like a drum. Evelyn's reaction told him more than anything else, that she was not just abusive, but hiding something dangerous, something tied to Briggs. He returned to the bedroom where Marilyn sat with Mia. Valor lay protectively in front of the door. Rowan knelt before Mia. "Sweetheart, you're safe, I promise." She nodded weakly, leaning into him. Outside, the wind howled like a warning. Inside, Rowan finally understood the truth. This wasn't just a family problem. It was a conspiracy. And Briggs wasn't done. Rowan wrapped his arms around Mia, whispering, "I'll protect you, whatever it takes." Valor lifted his head in silent agreement. The shadows in the Pierce house were deepening, but Rowan was ready to walk straight into them. Ash Harbor's night sky stretched in a sheet of dark navy, the moon half hidden behind restless clouds. The cold carried a sharp metallic bite, rattling through gutters and shaking pine branches like warning fingers tapping against glass. Inside the Pierce cottage, however, warmth glowed from a single lamp beside the couch where Mia slept with Valor, curled protectively at her feet. Rowan watched her for a long, aching moment before stepping into the kitchen where Marilyn waited nervously. Marilyn held a steaming mug between her hands, her fingers trembling slightly. "Sir, what Briggs said earlier, he won't stop." She looked older tonight. The lines around her eyes seemed deeper, carved by guilt and years of enduring more than she let on. "He's dangerous." Rowan nodded. "I know." His voice was quiet but cold. "I need help." Marilyn swallowed. "There's someone you should talk to, someone who tried to warn me months ago." She hesitated. "Nathan Wilder." The name made Rowan pause. Nathan Wilder, 39, was Rowan's friend before life pulled them onto different paths. Nathan was tall and wiry with unruly chestnut hair, sharp brown eyes, and a quick stride that made him look constantly mid-thought. He worked as an investigative journalist in the city, relentless, bold, and feared by corrupt officials. Nathan once exposed a drug ring involving 2 police officers, which made him unpopular in law enforcement. But Rowan had always admired his integrity. They drifted apart after Rowan remarried because Evelyn disliked Nathan's directness, calling him a trouble chaser. Rowan pulled out his phone, hesitated a second, then dialed. Nathan answered on the second ring. "Pierce," he said, voice surprised but alert. "It's been a while." "I need you," Rowan whispered, glancing down the hallway to ensure Evelyn wasn't listening. "Something's wrong, with my daughter, with Briggs, with my house." Nathan's tone shifted instantly. "Where are you?" "Home," Rowan replied. "But I won't be here long." Nathan sighed. "I'll meet you. Give me 20 minutes. Rowan ended the call and slipped on his jacket. He returned to the living room, brushing a hand against Mia's hair. Valor rose immediately, sensing Rowan's urgency. "Stay," Rowan whispered. Valor hesitated, then obeyed reluctantly. "You'll be okay," Rowan told Marilyn softly. "I'll be back before dawn." As he opened the door to step out into the frigid night, he glanced up toward the top of the stairs. Evelyn stood there, half-shadowed, arms crossed. Her expression was unreadable, too calm, too controlled. "Going somewhere?" she asked lightly. "Work matter," Rowan lied smoothly. Her gaze flicked toward the window, where the curtains shifted from the cold draft. "We should talk, Rowan." "We will," Rowan said. "Later." He closed the door, behind him. The air downtown was colder, sharper, slicing across Rowan's cheeks as he parked outside the closed Harbor Ridge Library, a neutral location he and Nathan had used long ago when sharing sensitive information. A tall street lamp cast a muted yellow circle across the sidewalk. Rowan pulled his collar high against the wind and waited. Minutes later, footsteps approached. Nathan emerged from the shadows wearing a dark wool coat and scarf, carrying a leather satchel overflowing with papers and a small laptop. His stride was quick, fueled by concern. Nathan took one look at Rowan's face and stopped. "Tell me everything?" Inside the dim library entryway, Rowan explained what he had discovered: the attic blanket, the cleaning chemicals, the nights Mia slept on cold floors, Evelyn's lies, Briggs entering the house at 1 a.m., and the threats. Nathan listened intently, fingers tapping against his chin. "This isn't just abuse," he finally said. "It's control. And if Briggs is involved, it's probably tied to something illegal." He leaned closer. "Rowan, have you checked your official police equipment logs lately?" Rowan frowned. Not since before the mountain operation. Nathan nodded grimly. Then start there. Briggs has a history of using department IDs to borrow equipment for private security contracts. If he used your ID, that's motive for him to silence you. Rowan stared at him. And Evelyn? Nathan sighed. A perfect cover. A pretty polished wife no one questions. She gains access to your files, signs papers, invites Briggs under the guise of helping with household security. They both manipulate your trust. Rowan clenched his fists. Mia, she must have seen something. Nathan's eyes softened. Kids notice everything. Then Nathan reached into his satchel and pulled out a small flash drive. I dug up what I could in the past hour. Briggs has been attending a series of private strategy meetings with business owners connected to a suspicious funding network. He tapped the drive. These names match invoices linked to your station. Rowan felt the ground shift beneath him. He had expected something bad, but this was worse. Nathan placed a hand on Rowan's shoulder. I know you, Pierce. You won't let them bury you. So here's my suggestion. Let's hit them where it hurts. Rowan frowned. Where? Nathan smirked. The Winter Charity Gala tomorrow night. Half the town's leaders will be there. Press, officials, everyone Evelyn pretends to impress. Rowan blinked. You want me to expose them in public? Nathan crossed his arms. Briggs won't let you bring this to the station. Evelyn will twist every word, but at the gala, they'll have no place to hide. Rowan looked out the foggy window. Snow swirled like drifting ash, silent, cold. He nodded once. We'll do it. Next morning, Rowan's house felt even colder. Evelyn moved through the kitchen with machine-like precision, avoiding eye contact. She prepared breakfast silently, the rhythmic scrape of utensils stiff and brittle. Her movements were too controlled for someone confident. This was the behavior of someone expecting collapse. Mia sat at the table nibbling toast, shoulders hunched. Valor lay beside her chair, head resting across her feet like a living shield. Marilyn busied herself washing dishes, keeping her body between Evelyn and the child. Rowan observed all of them quietly. The roles in his home had shifted overnight. Mia clung to Marilyn. Valor watched Evelyn like a potential threat. Evelyn avoided Rowan. Marilyn looked ready to flee if voices rose. Rowan sat beside Mia. Sweetheart, I need to go out again today, but I'll come back tonight, and you'll be with Marilyn the whole time. Mia nodded, though her small fingers tightened around Valor's fur. Evelyn approached with a forced smile. Rowan, darling, we really should talk. Rowan stood. After tonight, something dark flickered in Evelyn's eyes, but she said nothing. That evening, Nathan arrived dressed in a dark suit, carrying a concealed microphone pack and a tablet. Rowan wore his formal dress blues, sharp, authoritative, and symbolic. Valor stayed home with Mia and Marilyn, though the dog paced anxiously as Rowan left, sensing danger. The Ash Harbor Winter Charity Gala glowed in white and gold at the Grand Harbor Hotel. Wealthy donors, business owners, and reporters mingled beneath chandeliers, unaware they would soon witness something unforgettable. Rowan and Nathan stood near the back of the ballroom. Nathan opened his laptop, fingers flying. Once you go up there, he whispered, I'll trigger the footage on the projector. You just have to keep them focused on you long enough. Rowan nodded once. Suddenly the room dimmed and music swelled. Evelyn stepped gracefully onto the stage, dressed in a shimmering winter-white gown that sparkled under the lights like frost. Her red hair was pinned elegantly. Her smile was warm, confident, practiced. She embodied perfection. Good evening, friends, she began sweetly. Tonight we celebrate generosity, unity, and... Play it, Rowan whispered. Nathan pressed a key. The ballroom screen behind Evelyn flickered, then burst into video. Evelyn paused, smile freezing. A recording filled the room, Mia crying softly as Evelyn's voice commanded coldly. Again. Clean every spot. Gasps spread across the crowd. Rowan walked onto the stage, expression calm but unyielding. Evelyn's face drained of color as she whispered, Rowan, what are you doing? Showing the truth, Rowan said. Camera flashes erupted. Reporters surged forward. Behind the screen, Nathan cued the next clip, Briggs signing Rowan's ID forms at CO night, smirking as he transferred department equipment records. The room exploded in shock. Evelyn stumbled backward, knocking over the microphone stand. At the back entrance, federal agents entered the ballroom, brisk, silent, authoritative. Rowan looked at Evelyn, voice low but resolute. "It's over." Winter loosened its grip slowly over Ash Harbor. But it was not the slow shifting of seasons that brought warmth back into Rowan's life. It was the silence after the storm. The days following the gala had been a blur. Investigations, testimonies, official statements, and the steady unwinding of a conspiracy that reached deeper than Rowan ever imagined. Evelyn and Briggs were taken into custody that same night, their carefully composed facades shattered under the harsh lights of federal questioning. But for Rowan, the truest moment of clarity came only after the agents escorted him to a quiet room backstage and told him he was free to leave. For the first time in weeks, he breathed without fear. Tonight, however, was different. Tonight, he packed. Boxes lined the hallway of the Pierce cottage, some filled with Rowan's spare uniforms, some with Mia's drawings, others with practical things they needed for the transition. The old house still smelled faintly of lemon solvent and cold memories, but Rowan didn't let his gaze linger on the rooms where those memories lived. He wanted fresh air. He wanted sunlight. He wanted Mia to grow up where shadows didn't whisper. Mia sat cross-legged on the living room floor, doodling carefully on a pad of thick paper. Her hair was brushed neatly today, falling in soft waves around her cheeks. She had changed over the last few days, slowly, delicately. She still startled easily, still glanced behind her out of habit, but she no longer flinched when Rowan raised his voice slightly, or when Valor barked at the mailman. Valor lay beside her, tail thumping occasionally whenever her pencil paused. Rowan smiled at the sight. Marilyn folded linens nearby and cleared her throat softly. "Sir, she seems brighter today." Rowan nodded. "She's getting there." Marilyn gave a warm, motherly smile. She had agreed to stay with them during the move, at least through the first week. After years of working long shifts and lonely nights, Marilyn had gained a sharp intuition about people. She was soft-spoken and gentle, but beneath her softness was an iron sense of loyalty. She had lost her own daughter in an accident many years ago, a tragedy that carved a permanent tenderness into her voice whenever she spoke to Mia. It was that grief that made her so protective. A knock sounded at the door. Rowan opened it to find Nathan Wilder, wearing a heavy charcoal coat and carrying a box of supplies. His hair looked windswept, and a faint shadow of exhaustion darkened his eyes, but he greeted Rowan with a wry grin. "I heard you're moving tomorrow. Thought I'd bring things you might need." Nathan stepped inside and handed Mia a new set of colored pencils. "For the little artist." Mia looked up shyly, then smiled, a small but bright curve of hope. "Thank you," she whispered, clutching the pencils like treasure. Nathan lowered his voice to Rowan. "I also have updates. Briggs confessed to the equipment laundering. Evelyn broke halfway through the interview. They're both looking at several years minimum." Rowan exhaled. "Good." Nathan studied him a moment. "You're quiet." Rowan shrugged. "I thought I'd feel victory or something. But mostly, I just feel relief." "That's what healing sounds like," Nathan replied gently. Valor trotted over and nudged Nathan's leg. Nathan laughed. "I didn't forget you, buddy." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a chew treat. Valor accepted it with a pleased rumble. The evening passed with quiet preparations. Marilyn cooked a pot of vegetable soup, while Nathan helped Rowan disassemble the old bed frame. The cottage, once filled with brittle tension, now hummed with gentle domestic noise, the kind of sound that made a home feel alive. Just after sunset, another knock came. Rowan opened the door to see a woman bundled in a thick coat and woolen scarf. She looked to be in her early 30s, with soft brown eyes, a round face, and a warm, approachable demeanor. She held a folder close to her chest. "Mr. Pierce?" she asked. "I'm Sarah Dempsey, CPS liaison." Sarah was short and sturdy, with a calm, grounded presence. There was kindness in her posture, the sort of gentle strength that came from years of working with hurting children. She had once been a foster child herself, raised by a single grandmother after her mother's arrest. That past gave her empathy, but also a firm, no-nonsense approach when it came to protecting minors. "Of course," Rowan said, stepping aside. "Please come in." Sarah's gaze immediately went to Mia, who sat drawing Valor with her new pencils. "I see she likes art. She loves it," Rowan replied. Sarah smiled. "Good. Children often share their feelings through drawings more easily than words." She opened her folder. "I'm here for a brief wellness check, just to ensure Mia's environment is safe and her guardianship arrangement is stable." Rowan nodded. "Ask anything you need." As they talked, Nathan quietly moved to sit near Mia, asking about her drawing. Marilyn poured tea for Sarah, and Valor positioned himself between Mia and the newcomer, not hostile, but watchful. Sarah made notes, occasionally smiling as she observed the closeness between Rowan and his daughter. After 15 minutes, she closed her folder. "Mr. Pierce, I'm pleased to say Mia is showing signs of emotional recovery. Her attachment to you and consistent positive interactions here are a strong sign she's stabilizing. Moving to a quieter environment may be exactly what she needs." Rowan felt a knot loosen inside him. Sarah stood. "If you need referrals for trauma counselors, let me know. Mia may benefit from gentle emotional guidance in the months ahead." "Thank you," Rowan said sincerely. As Sarah prepared to leave, Mia walked over, shyly, and hugged Rowan's leg. Sarah gave a gentle nod, her eyes soft. Then she slipped out into the cold night. Later, when the packing was done for the day, and Mia had fallen asleep on the couch curled against Valor's warm side, Rowan stepped outside onto the porch. Nathan joined him, leaning on the railing. "Strange, isn't it?" Nathan murmured. "How a place can feel so heavy one week and so light the next." Rowan stared at the snow-covered yard. The same yard where he had once found Mia shivering, but tonight the snow seemed softer, less cruel. "I thought I was losing her," Rowan said quietly, "but she's stronger than I knew." "They always are," Nathan replied. "Kids survive things adults think impossible." The wind whispered across the pines. Rowan closed his eyes a moment, letting the cold sting his skin, grounding him in the present. "We leave for Brightwater at dawn," Rowan said. "There's a cabin near the lake, quiet, safe." Nathan smiled. "It'll be a good place for both of you?" "Stay for a while," Rowan said. "Visit when you can." Nathan chuckled. "Don't worry, I'm not disappearing." Inside, Valor barked once, soft, calling them back. Rowan and Nathan returned indoors. Marilyn fixed Mia a warm blanket and turned off the lamp. Rowan lifted his daughter gently, carrying her to the guest bed one last time in the old cottage. As he tucked her in, Mia stirred, whispering, "Daddy, can we go home tomorrow?" Rowan brushed her hair tenderly. "Yes, sweetheart, we're going home." Valor laid beside the bed, head on his paws, watching them closely as though he too understood that tomorrow would be the beginning of something new. Peace, safety, and a life without shadows. And for the first time in a long, long while, Rowan believed it. In every corner of this story, from the cold wind that tried to break a child's spirit to the quiet courage of a father who refused to give up, we are reminded of something deeper than winter and stronger than fear. We are reminded that God often works his miracles in the smallest places: a warm hand reaching out, a loyal dog standing guard, a heart finally brave enough to protect what truly matters. In our own lives, we face storms that try to freeze our hope, just like Rowan and little Mia. But when we choose love, when we choose truth, when we choose to stand for what is right, God meets us in those moments. He opens doors we thought were locked forever. He turns darkness into a path of light. If this story touched your heart, please share it so its message can reach someone who needs it today. Leave a comment, tell us how it made you feel, and remember to subscribe for more stories of faith, courage, and the quiet miracles that guide our lives. May God bless you, protect your family, and fill your home with peace. If you believe in the power of love, courage, and God's protection, comment Amen.